welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started with a little bit of introduction. My name is Jennifer Monet Cowley. For those of you who do not know me, I'm a fellow artist and also a curator and a designer. And I'm here today chatting with my art sister, Jamila Mendez, on her heartwarming show, Hello from Elm Thicket. So we're going to get right into it. Congratulations on your solo.
Thank you.
So one of the first things I want to ask you is, who is Jamila Mendez?
Start with a tough question. I'm an artist. I like to make things. A little bit of everything. I mostly deal in acrylic and collage, but I'm also a photographer and a fashion designer as well. So, and I make earrings and purses. So I'm an artist all the way through. I pretty much don't know. That's who I am.
Okay. Well, what was the catalyst for you to create this beautiful body of work that we're surrounded by?
The catalyst was, I've been taking trips through my childhood neighborhood ever since I moved away from here. That was my most significant in the last 10 years. And I kept seeing things that were changing, and in my opinion, they weren't for the good. And I thought, it was such a special neighborhood, and I thought, wow, maybe I need to document this. And this show, it has evolved since its first inception, but it was always about, you know, that neighborhood, that special place where I was raised.
How did it evolve?
Well, it evolved with the process in my mind. Because when I originally, the sketches that I was making, they were solely focused on the structures, the physical changes that I was seeing. And I was displeased with that, and my sketches were showing that. And there was a lot of anger. And I started thinking about the process, and I was like, how can you emote this differently so that people will understand? Because if I come across just with the anger, will they understand why I'm angry?
Right.
And so that's how it started to evolve.
Okay. Well, can you tell us about your heartbreaking first-hand experience with the gentrification going on in your beloved neighborhood?
So the house that I lived in, it was on Kaywood Drive, and it belonged to my great-grandmother. And her name is Elsie Morris. She's the beautiful lady, the first in my portraits. She was the epicenter, and still is the epicenter of my family. The house that I grew up in, even though when I was coming up, it was me, my brother, my mother, and her. Those 7 people, they all lived in that home at one time or another, including others, but it was other family members. Our particular house was the hub for our whole family. So when our Houston family members came into town, this is where they would come. Cousins that stayed out of state, this is where they would come. This was our central, command center. They knew they couldn't go anywhere else. They could come to that home. They could get a warm meal. They would be treated with love and respect. And they could stay there until they got on their feet, whatever it was. And around the age of when I turned 14, and the reason I need to tell you guys about my great-grandmother is because my great-grandmother was a phenomenal person. She had a 6th grade education, but she also had her own catering business. She put 2 girls through college on her own, and she owned that home on her own. Because her and my great-grandfather had parted ways, early on, and he went back to California. And so she had lived all of this life and done all of these things with her 6th grade education. And she was so accustomed to doing things on her own and by herself. I don't think that she was prepared for the predatory nature of certain people. And we had our home stolen from us. She got into negotiations with a man that said that he could sell her home, and she had decided to sell it. I was home when it happened, but because I was raised a certain way and also I was a certain age, I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't fully understand everything. I just knew that he was up to something. He came to the house and he tricked my great-grandmother into signing papers saying that she had already been paid for the home, so she only got $800 for our house. We had to move out within 2 weeks. We didn't know anything. We didn't have anywhere to go. And it was a rough time. So I'm sentimental about it.
Absolutely.
And was hurt by the fact that everything that she had been through and all the hard work and labor, it was just taken from her.
Right.
So, that was a long story, but
No, it's,
I need to tell y'all.
Yes, it's much needed for you all to hear the backstory behind that, because I feel that, and as you can see, Jamila put so much love and intent into these works of art, and they're absolutely beautiful, but you can also feel the anger, like in this piece where you have the white water house next to the little smaller original house from the neighborhood. So, in just the stories behind the pieces. So tell us about some of the stories behind some of these pieces, because some of the pieces are very, like that piece, and then, this one is my favorite here. Yes, but if you can kind of tell us about the pieces as you go around the room.
Well, I want to go back to the first one that you, excuse me guys, pointed out. This one right here is called Shadow Play. And this is present time. And some of these, there's imagination. I've mixed past with the future. But this one is right now. If you drive, okay, we drive. This is right here. I did not change anything. And you're right about this. There's a lot of anger in that painting. Because I think it's inconsiderate. I think that everyone has the right to have their dream home. You have your home the way you would like. But I find it very funny, and we had an extended conversation, Faz, about when you go into certain other neighborhoods of a certain economic status, they have guidelines in place. You can't build over a certain height. In the neighborhood that I stay in now, we only have 6 colors of which we can choose to paint our home that I pay the mortgage on. But they tell me what to do. But somehow in this neighborhood, where it used to be mostly black and brown folk, you can come and do as you please, no matter if it blocks all of the sun from your neighbor. And that's what the upset is about. Not just about you blocking the sun, but about not looking around and paying attention to the culture that's there. And I kind of don't understand why people want to move in a neighborhood and terraform. If you don't like the way it was there, why are you there? I kind of don't understand that. There's nothing wrong with wanting something new and something nice, but I can tell you, but if you went over there and you saw it, you understand. It's not just about the houses. They're literally terraforming. So.
Tell us about the piece right next to it.
So right next to it is, this is called Sweet Peas Trampoline. And this is from a place this is 2 different times, and I combined them together in the same place. But Sweet Pea, she was one of my childhood friends. She lived across the street, diagonal from us. And they were a big family, very beautiful, sweet people. And I was obsessed with that trampoline. I dreamt about it, and I would get up and I would go to the trampoline. So much so that even when Sweet Pea, my friend, was not home, I would knock on the door. And I'd be like, Miss Darrell, can I go jump on the trampoline? And she would say, yes, baby, you can go. And she would bring me lemonade. And that's what our neighborhood was about. Like, we had parents everywhere. Like, you could, this is what I'm, it was a certain vibe there and a culture there that, I don't know, like, I feel like the more they tear it down, it can't be duplicated, and it breaks my heart. So I know everybody wants to know, girl, why is the house on fire?
Right, yeah.
The house is on fire because that actually happened. And in my little girl, 8-year-old mind, the house burned down, and everybody came outside, and we were all sad. But thank God they got the house remade. It was really pretty. But after they got, first of all, remember what I told you in the beginning, I loved that trampoline. So I had to wait all those months. I was like, when am I gonna get to be on the trampoline? The house finally got finished. They let all the neighbors in. We was, oh girl, look at this new closet. Like, ooh, everybody was excited. Sweet Pea showed me a room. I was like, yes. I kept looking out the window. I was like, oh, see the damn trampoline. Finally, nobody said nothing to me, so I was like, y'all, where the trampoline at? And they were like, oh, baby, it got destroyed, so we got rid of it. I was so hurt. I was so hurt. So in my mind, now as a grown up, that sounds horrible. Because I'm like, girl, that's all you care about was the trampoline. But I was a little girl, y'all. So in my mind, that's how I remember it. I was like, the fire killed my trampoline. It was so big, and I have yet to see a trampoline that big. Okay, because Sweet Pea, it was her and 8 other children. We would jump on that trampoline sometimes 10 and 12 at a time.
Wow.
And this is before parents were super protective, so if you got caught in those springs, you just deal with it. And my mom was like, I bet you're not gonna go over there no more. I said, I bet you I am. So, that's that on that.
So, Jamila's willow tree. Please tell us about that one.
So, remember when I was telling you guys that my great-grandmother got the house stolen? And when we moved out, my brother, to be honest, I don't even remember where my brother went. He went to go stay with somebody, and then my mom and me, we stayed in my grandpapa's apartment. And my mom was so depressed. Well, after about a month, we got a new place to stay. It was an apartment, and that's an adjustment. If you used to being in a house with a yard, and that's an adjustment. And I can't remember why my mom, I think maybe she was just sad like I was, and we drove back over there. And the first thing they did was they chopped down that tree. First of all, I love trees. But this particular tree was a willow tree. I don't know if you guys have ever been up in a willow tree, but when the higher you go up, there's like a 5-degree coolness difference. and it was so full. And I would go up into that tree and I would read my Ramona Quimby books. If you look closely, I printed out and I made sure I'm holding the book called Dear God, Is Me Margaret, which I was born in 1974. This book was everything for me. It kind of tells you about when you become a woman. Yeah, Judy Blume was everything, and I was a bookworm. But this was also my solace. You know, when I felt frustrated about something, if I needed to think. And also, I like to mess with my great-grandmother. She never remembered for some reason. I would sit up in the tree, even though I knew I was gonna get a whooping, and she would come out, and she never pronounced my name right. And if you tried to correct her, I'd be like, "Mama, my name is Jamila," and she was like, "I call you what I want. I knew your name before you knew your name. You don't correct me." And I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." So when she would come outside to call me and my brother, she would go, "Jamila," and I'd be up in the tree looking down at her like, and she just kept calling me. And for some reason, it just tickled me. Even though I knew I was going to get in trouble, I was like, this is funny. And my mom would come out the house, she'd be like, "You joking." Right there. But this is, I had to do this, and I had to do it right. And shout out to my amazing husband for gluing every single leaf on that painting for me. He did. But I had to do it because that was my place of solace, and I wanted to make sure I did it right. And I was a girly girl, but I was a tomboy too. And yes, I would throw my bike in the lawn just like that and have my Barbies out in the rain. So it's a very personal piece.
It's absolutely beautiful. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. One of the questions that I had on my list, and you probably already answered it, but how does this show comment on current social and political issues, in your opinion?
I don't know if it's political. Gentrification is political to me. So there's that. And it doesn't matter what side of the line that you stand on. I think that we go about things wrong, morally. Let's talk about, morally. And I think when we continue to ignore things and just say, "Oh, but that's, change is change. You just have to get over it." But I think there's a better way to even gentrify. I think that it could be a better solution, even if it's an easing of things. The displacement of people, especially Black and brown people, is disgusting to me. And I don't know of anyone that wants to work hard for 30, 40, 50 years and then have to, even if you were getting paid a decent amount, who wants to pack up 30 years of stuff? You pick that place because that's where you want to be. That's where you feel at home. I understand that sometimes we have to do that, but to be forced to do it, especially with elders, and if you're paying attention in the news, we live here in Dallas, so it's happening all around, but in Dallas, it's happening in any neighborhood that's over 30, it is being gentrified. And right here in this neighborhood, my neighborhood is North Dallas. It's starting to happen again in Arlington Park. And the truth is, middle class people have to have somewhere safe to stay as well. So there's that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I know that my husband and I purchased a house back in '99 in Inwood, right around, actually on the
and just to see everything that has transpired just in Bishop Arts, that's not the same Bishop Arts that I grew up seeing or bringing my kids up. And there's this little mom and pop restaurant called El Jordan's. I am rooting for them. I am rooting for them to be able to maintain, yes, because everything else is, to be honest with you, is vanilla. It has no flavor. And I am rooting for them to be able to maintain, and stay the course, because just even with them changing the zoning where Sylvan, well, part of Tyler is now, it used to be a one-way for the longest. And now it's a two-way, and even on the other side, Tyler, the same thing. Just all of that, just to accommodate what's going on. And I don't like it. I don't like it.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I do like about gentrification. When you fix those streets.
Yes. Yes.
What's odd to me, and so I want to bring something up, since we are in West Dallas, I feel like I need to bring this point up. I was born in 1974, so, and I was the little girl that was always, my mom always said, tell me, get out of grown folks' business. I want to stay in the room when adults were talking. I remember them protesting down here every time it would flood. A lot of people don't know, and their insurance were not covering it. But the other thing that people don't know is that the engineers knew that this was not good ground to be, there was going to be a flood zone, and they did it anyway. And they purposely made commercials to bring the Hispanic and Black people to this neighborhood. This neighborhood, Elm Thicket, and you can look these commercials up for yourself. Okay? And by the way, this was my great-grandmother's second time being displaced. The first time, she was still in Elm Thicket, but she was where the elementary school is now, and they did, what's that when the government say it don't matter, we gotta build something for you, gotta leave. Eminent domain. So they gave her money for that house, and she moved to this, and still it happened. Like, it's constant. But what I see here in West Dallas is, it's really funny. They found a way to have it not flood so much here. It's like magic. But I knew that that was going to happen when they, as soon as the Audubon Trail, I was like, here we go.
Yeah, of course. So, what is next for this particular show? What do you envision?
Well, I wanted to get it into Arts Fort Worth, but I missed the deadline. I would like for it to go somewhere else, to other galleries, to other cities and states. I think that it needs to be talked about. I think that when you talk about things that upset you, it allows for better plans to be laid. There's a better way to do this. Like I said, for the third time, change does happen. I understand that. But it doesn't have to be morally corrupt.
Absolutely.
I just don't feel that.
Which is your favorite piece?
So my favorite piece is the Kojic let out right here. And the Kojic let out, well, I know it's one Pentecostal person in here, I don't know about the rest, but Kojic stands for Church of God in Christ. If you know, you know. We are a very different sect of Pentecostal people, and if you were raised in it, it is quite something. And the reason why I call this the Kojic let out is because my mother, she believed in that we should be in a church. And let me say it nicely, because I know she don't watch this. She was a very active person in the church, okay? So we were there on Sunday, we were there on Wednesday, and we were there on Thursday.
That's a lot of church.
It's a lot of the church. And this scene is about when you get out of church. And I called it the let out because I was sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, we got here at 7 a.m. because, you know, we had Bible study. And then we didn't get out to 2. And then we would get out, and then my mama would make me stand out there for another hour. So that's why it was the let out. So I was like, well, it's just second service. That was my life, y'all. And she did that until I turned 19. And then I was like, you can't make me go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to college. I'm tired of this. So that's my favorite because it brings up so many good memories. I love that salmon colored brick, and yes, the church does really look like that. It's all things, just, I don't know, all things good and black, and I just love it. It just gives me good feelings.
Blackity black black.
Blackity black black.
The execution of that piece is exquisite.
Thank you.
Yeah, very well done. Who inspires you?
Who inspires me? Artistically or?
From anywhere?
Wow. Dang, Jennifer. These are heavy questions. Who inspires me? Well, I have a lot of people in this room that inspire me artistically, so there's that. My family inspires me. I've been blessed with some people in my family that choose to speak life, and that's intention.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
it doesn't have to be that way, but I've been blessed in that. Specifically my mother, even though she has, as she says, no artistic bone in her body, she always pushed me with this. She was like, this is good, go do this, you're good at that, you should explore that. So, and I'm appreciative that she's in my life.
Yeah, that is major that your mother was so encouraging with your pursuits in art, because most parents are not. They're not, because I know for myself, my parents have told me, you need to get into something that you can make some money at. Yeah.
And that's be true.
Yeah.
She said that too, but she was like, this is good, you should explore it. And I'm so thankful to her. You know, when you're younger, some things you don't understand. And I remember when I was about 11 or 12, she got me private art lessons from Linda Campbell Camp.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's a well-known, she used to teach many years at Arts Magnet. And this is a big deal for me.
Yes.
And I literally watched my art go from here to there with those private art lessons. And she couldn't afford them. I didn't understand that then, but the sacrifice that she made for my brother and I to do different things, I'm so thankful for that.
If you were an artist, what would you do?
Oh, if I wasn't an artist, I would be a singer. I was for a hot minute. That's how I tripped out when I sang. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I really wanted to be a singer. Like, I was going to the studio, and it was serious. So, I think I would have done both. I still wouldn't need to be an artist. I can't see myself not painting or sketching or doing something of that nature.
I love the love that you put into each and every piece that we see here. And I know that you've already talked about why it's so personal, but can you dig a little deeper in why it's so personal with why now? Why now? And why so personal? Because all of these pieces come straight from your heart. I can feel it, I can see it.
That back wall, as I told you guys, that's my immediate family. that is my in order, that is my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, my Uncle Ronnie, my Uncle Donnie, my brother DJ, and me. Everybody on that wall, with the exception of me, my mother, and my brother, are deceased. All of this happened in that house. All of these people, there was like they shaped me. And I regret that I didn't get to do this while some of them were. So I felt like I needed to do it now. Also because we are literally, I'm watching that neighborhood disappear. And it almost has a correlation to my family. And this show is really more about, like, we were here. We are here. We existed. And we made beautiful lives in that house and on that street. And it was important to me. And I just want some people to know about it. I just want some people to know about that neighborhood before it just disappears. So now is the time. And I'm not being dramatic, I don't think that neighborhood will exist in any form of what I knew within the next 3 years. That's how fast it's going. So that's why now.
Okay, perfect answer. Oh, no. Do what you have to do. Next question is, this is such a beautiful, thoughtful, loving, but somewhat heavy show. And I would like to know, what did you do for self-care while creating this show? Because, I mean, when you really think about it, all that your first-hand experience with your great-grandmother losing a house, and then you're witnessing all the things that are changing in your neighborhood. What did you do to not remain angry and stay stressful and carry all that? What did you do to take care of Jamila?
Thank you for asking that. Remember when I told you guys that this show evolved? This is how. So I knew that this show was coming. Some of the setup here at 500X, I don't know that everyone knows this. This is one of the oldest artist-run galleries. And it's an important place because artists run it. We're members here, we do the work, the stuff that you see hanging, we do that, we get it in, and we make it happen. And so the reward for that is that all of us, as a member, we get to have a solo show, and we also have a group show together. So I knew that this show was coming, and I was gonna do something different, but I changed my mind. Something happened to me earlier this year, and I'm going to share it with you guys. I was sick, and I've been sick for a while, but sometimes when you get sick and you're still trying to go, it becomes your normal, and you kind of don't realize that you're sick. And I was having severe female problems, and I found out that the C word was growing in my body. It was a lot going on. And I'm weird because I knew the show was coming. I was like, I ain't got time for this. I really don't. I just want to focus on this show. And I'm definitely, please don't get this wrong, I'm definitely not happy that that happened. I was very scared. I've never been cut on in my life. I've never had any type of surgery. And I had to have that surgery. I had a full hysterectomy, but what happened that allowed me, gave me time to think, and for some of the anger to turn into something different. And I'm glad that it did. So even though some of the anger is still here, I chose to focus on the love. I was like, I want to show them what this neighborhood was really about. How can I really do that? So my sketches changed. And you asked me what I did for self-care. I maybe didn't do such a good job of that, but I'm gonna say that I let myself lay down and heal and be still. Because sometimes you need to be still. And when I say be still up here and be still.
Being still up here is hard to do.
It's very
What
hard.
did you do to accomplish that? Because that's something that I personally struggle with, to apply to my mind. What did you do?
A lot of prayer, a lot of reflection about, and a lot of sitting in the moment of understanding. Things happen when they happen, but I had an awareness. I was like, you need to be still. Because I felt like some of this when it went as far as it went, if I was chilling a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Being reflective and paying attention. Pay attention to your body. Because our body does tell us, like, hey, I need a rest. You're doing too much. And the mind.
Yes.
And just being reflective and praying and going into Chatty Cathy's room and talking to her, you know, about all of these good old memories. Chatty Cathy is my mama, y'all. If you've ever met her, you would, poor Sean. You'll understand. She'll talk your ear off. She's so friendly. The friendliest Gemini you're gonna ever meet. But she's Chatty Cathy. But the good thing is, like, she brings all those memories to life. And that was part of my healing process as well. And I'm thankful for that.
Nice, very nice. What is your creative process?
So my creative process, that's a good question. Look at you. Okay, Barbara, what? Hold on. My creative process is I write first. So almost like a script. I write what I want to see. Literally, I'd be like, oh, the girl should be holding this, and like this one, I was like, oh, you should, I literally wrote down, you should have something in your favorite tree, and the thing that you love to do the most. What dominant color do you want? And then I start writing colors by it, and then I start doing really rough, rudimentary sketches, and it evolves from there. And after I get the sketch down, I flush it out, make it look better. I usually take it from paper. I'll take a picture of it. Okay, yeah, she is. I'll take a picture of it and I put it on my iPad and I refine it and then I project it. As you know, it's my miniature projector.
Yes.
And I go from there.
Very nice.
But I try to form, with the writing helps me with cohesion. And it also helps me with editing. Because I come from a fashion design background, that editing is still in me. You know, when I was in college, they would always talk about, okay, don't be afraid to get rid of things.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to add things. Look at your things, like go around and pay attention, walk away from it. And so with the writing, I look at it, I was like, does that story go with this story? Is that making sense? Is there cohesion here?
Right.
So that's what the writing helps me to form. I hope that people understand that this is a story. And I put it in a certain order for a reason.
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Next, the last question I'm going to ask you is a question I've asked a couple of artists that I've spoken with. I've asked Tiara the same question. I've also asked Sheridan this question. And have you seen black art in absence of light on HBO? All right, so here we go.
I've seen it.
So I'm going to read this to you, okay? And there's no right or wrong answer to this. So, do we have the capacity to be great makers in the absence of light? If blackness has something to do with the absence of light, does black art mean that sometimes I'm making when no one's looking? Sometimes we are trained and conditioned to only make if there's a light. That makes us codependent upon a thing we don't control. Are you willing to make in the absence of light?
Hell yeah.
Perfect
I do it
answer.
anyway. I have to.
Perfect answer.
I have to get it out of my body, like, literally.
Yeah, absolutely. Or as Mr. Big would say, absolutely. So I want to take some answers from you all for being here. If you have any questions for Jamila on this magnificent show. Yes.
So, gentrification, super personal to most of us. Do you feel like because the way it's done in a sweeping manner across the nation, do you feel like it's a continuation or a different way of erasing our culture? Because it always happens in neighborhoods where we have, established culture, we have, the whole neighborhood comes in, we have block parties, backyard barbecues, everybody knows everybody raised everybody's kids, and those are the neighborhoods that are targeted. So do you feel like this is like a continuation of them trying to erase our culture after we've come to America?
Yes. I don't know that people with, what do I call that, with more economic success or means to, that is there. So, let me get this right. 50% of the people who's moving there, they ain't just thinking, they like, oh, what a deal. I'm gonna go in here and get this in a bargain basement and I'm gonna make this fabulous home. They don't really think about things. And then when they get there, they become aware, that's weird to me, but I'm trying not to judge. And the reason why, I know you're like, well, how you know how they feel? They display how they feel. Now this particular home right here, I cut it off, but on the left side, there is a fence or a wall. These houses look like compound, like a military place. If the windows weren't there, you would think that was some type of compound. They build these fences that are 10 feet tall, I'm not exaggerating. Oh, I wish I had a bus right now. I'd be like, CC. Unfortunately, my video is not working today, but they do not want you in there, and it's going all around the house. And to me, I'm like, now, you put so much work into building this home and making it look this way, and now you have this 10-foot fence, and when you come outside, because this isn't my first rodeo, and this isn't the first time that they have tried to, this is why I have the education. They came in the 80s, they came in the 90s, this has been ongoing with Elm Thicket. We've just been holding on to it. And it's always with the fences, and then when they move in, they're walking around like they're terrified of you. That's an odd thing to me. So them, I don't know that all of them have intention, but those developers, they definitely have intention. Because our neighborhood, and I started watching over here too, I call it the big squeeze. Next time you go around, pay attention. The first thing that they do is they begin to make retail stores in a circular fashion around your home. Retail stores that are 5 times out of the market of where you would shop. And you're like, okay. Then they move in, it's either condominiums or townhomes. They'll make at the outskirts, right inside those retail. And then they start to come into the neighborhood. It always happens that way. They do not change.
The only thing that I've noticed, which is to me a really offensive thing, is that when I notice it's about to happen is when they fix the streets and put sidewalks in. Those very streets where I walked, we have the dirt trails from going to and from school, going to the park, all of that. Those dirt trails were fine, but whenever they start laying pavement or sidewalks, that's your indication that they're coming.
And when they've arrived, they rename. My neighborhood, some of the people that are there, one of my friends DM'd me, and she was like, "Are you talking about our neighborhood?" And I was like, "Yeah, girl." And she was like, "Well, why'd you call it Elm Thicket? It's Elm Thicket." I said, "No, baby. The original name is Elm Thicket. Then it was Elm Thicket, most known by Northpark. And now they're calling it Inwood Park.
Wow.
And now Inwood Park West. This is called rebranding because they want to make the buyer believe that this is some new neighborhood." I have the funniest story to tell. My husband and I were on a chocolate tour. I have to tell the story. We were on a chocolate tour. We were getting a little tipsy.
It wasn't no little.
It was a food critic or a guide on the tour. It was really nice, actually, to take you around Dallas. It's really cool. They have a taco one. You just go on and on. But we were on the chocolate one. They were serving us wine, and we were getting it in. And we were on the bus, and she had her little microphone. She was like, "Oh, guys, okay.
It was the
We're
last
coming
stop.
up to, was it the last
It was
stop?
the last stop that we
We're
was
coming up to our
toasting.
last chocolate stop." I was like, "Oh, girl, where we going? Where are we going?" We were coming up the backside. I was all excited. She said, "We are entering into Trinity Grove." Now, remember I told you I'm a little tipsy and I'm not good with directions. We're coming up the backside.
We're coming up Silver.
I said, "Trinity Grove? I've been here since I was 5. Where's Trinity Grove, baby? Where's Trinity Grove? Where's Trinity Grove?"
So
Joe stood up.
she's coming down, we were coming down Sylvan, and as soon as she got to the Sylvan and Singleton, I see Ray's gunshot. And the first words out of my mouth when she said, "We are entering Trinity Grove," was, "This is West Dallas."
Ain't no damn Trinity Grove. What Trinity Grove at? I was so mad at that lady. I was like, I thought I was going somewhere new. I said, "Girl, just be here. Just take some chocolate plates." But when you hear that, it's pretty much over with. When they have rebranded your neighborhood into a whole other name, this is when you know.
And I don't know if most of you know that in Elm Thicket, there was a very well-known artist that lived over there, the Texas Kid. Lived over there, and there are some of his pieces at the African American Museum, and you could not miss his house. He had all kinds of stuff.
Statues in the
his
lawn. This was, and look, this is the other beauty about it. Just some people not like it. You always got, Sarah Jane and somebody to want to tell everybody what to do. But in our neighborhood, that kind of stuff, when individualism, if you were artistic, people didn't mess with you. And this was, everybody knew that neighbor, everybody, and we would kind of wait to see new stuff that he was gonna put out in the yard.
Yeah, that house was decorated from top to bottom. The trees, everything was painted, covered in bottle caps and bottles and all the things, so, yeah. And also Jean Lacy lived nearby as well, was another who did the stained glass windows over at St. Luke United Methodist Church. Yeah. Anyone else have any other questions? Yes.
So I'm from Arkansas originally, and I grew up in the
Hey!
and I grew up in a neighborhood both at my home and my grandparents' house. I grew up in San Flat, and then we had Iron Mountain Addition that we called Mountain Addition. And I recently went home maybe a couple of years ago and didn't even know that the house that I grew up in had been demolished. And so they're already working on, my whole neighborhood. So I called my mom, told her about it. She's very, very emotional about it. But because my grandparents are both now gone and some other family members, I decided to start a documentary just talking about our neighborhoods and everything and the family members that have gone and just passing down
it's actually already been done in my neighborhood, and they got some of the elders, and some of them were so old, I didn't even know them. I was like, oh, she's been here since, she predate my great-grandmother, hold on. And it's, as a matter of fact, it is called Elm Thicket, and it is on YouTube, and it is beautiful. It is beautiful. And they are currently in the midst of a zoning change. I'm praying that, because they want to stop with because they didn't stop at the 2-story. They was like, we're going to take it high. We're going to make 3-story homes now. And now people in the neighborhood are like, okay, this is becoming too much. So we'll see what happens with that zoning change.
Any other questions? Yes, here.
Hey,
Hey.
so I know some of us know about this new opportunity, as they call it, to purchase homes and be funded in Black and indigenous and brown neighborhoods, specifically through the mortgage loans of Bank of America. And I am, native to Miami, and I lived in a Black neighborhood there, and then out here we live in Cliff, nice Cliff, where I'm at. But they are pushing people to buy in these neighborhoods now and giving money away to purchase. However, it doesn't have any stipulations. So it is being almost like you can buy these neighborhoods, but you don't have to be Black and brown. And it is feeding that need to gentrify. And it's very interesting because I'm having this conversation with my mom about our house, our house, and she's considering selling, and I never thought she would sell. And I'm just like, we're gonna leave this thing in this historic district, because you like, I'm done. But it's like, you're giving it away now. Because somebody's like, come in and buy this house for $500,000 and it's gone. You don't own any part of this history anymore. We're not preserving it. And it's really sad to think that, like, I'm not from here, but I, like, started living my life through a place in a very specific way. I did the research, I did the history, I went to the city, I got the plans. And, like, to realize that my mom was willing to, like, let it go is really upsetting, because it's just putting it back in the hands of white folks and letting it be this thing that you can incentivize people to buy in this neighborhood. And it's really upsetting, and I'm glad you're doing this work, and I'm like, half the people in this room have done this work in a very specific way, and we talk about home a lot. And I'm very happy that we are still preserving these neighborhoods this way, as much as we can, even if it's just a relic of it. And I'm very excited to see it. It wasn't the first one.
Thank you, Sierra. I want to say something to that. I'm trying to be PC.
I know.
That's horrible.
I know I am.
I'm blunt.
Just be blunt.
The white folks moving in the neighborhood don't bother me. What bothers me is you terraforming.
Yeah.
You trying to change the specialness of the neighborhood. And if that's not your vibe, that's the part that upsets me. If what you see is not your vibe, because it's a difference between, hey, there's a pothole in the street and I want to fix that. That's different than, hey, I don't like the color of your home.
Right.
And so I'm gonna make sure that doesn't happen anymore in the neighborhood and get rid of you too. That is the issue that I have. That it feels malicious. I don't understand that. That's the upset with me. Why are you terraforming? I watch too many DC movies. But I literally, because that's how I feel when I drive through there. It feels like y'all saw Superman, like they was trying to terraform. What you doing? This ain't your planet, man. It's the same thing with the neighborhood. It feels wrong, and I have because the truth is, I'm halfway now. I'm 48 years old. I'm gonna be an elder someday. And I think about if my great-grandmother, if she hadn't had her home stolen, how would she feel right now? Do you wanna be 80 years old moving. Don't nobody wanna be 80 moving. See, people don't think about things like, well, I ain't old, it ain't my problem. That's your grandmama. One day you gonna be somebody's grandmama or grandfather. And nobody wants to be moving and doing all of those things at that age. I just don't think they do. I wanna sit on my porch and sip my lemonade. That's what I wanna do.
Yes.
Hi. I just wanted to just first, it's not really a question, but just wanted to just first, Jennifer, thank you so much for telling me about this artist talk and for meeting you. You know, I see your name on the wall, and I see my family's nickname in your name, and just hearing your story, hearing so much of myself, and you know, I'm a ball of emotions. But I just wanted to just say thank you just for sharing this story, because I'm originally from Miami and, you know, relocated here. I bought my first home over in South Dallas / Fair Park, or still trying to understand, you know, the history of the name. And, you know, when I, you know, was talking to Jennifer, she was telling me about your exhibit and everything that you're talking about with, you know, the gentrification and the changing of the neighborhoods and, you know, the changing of the homes and your, you know, your grandmother losing her home, and that was my story as well. And, you know, wanting to come into these spaces, and it just reminds me of Philadelphia Printworks that has this shirt called, you know, Respect the Locals. And understanding, you know, understanding the history and the neighborhood that I'm in, and, you know, wanting to be purposeful in, because I know the changes that are coming to South Dallas, and wanting to be a black face in that neighborhood that was still around when the wave does come, you know, so that people are represented. And it's just, my body is just on fire just with rage, and I understand, you know, I understand that particular piece that you're talking about, because it's the erasure of the locals and the history and everything that makes these neighborhoods so great is just, I feel like it's a war. And I've been telling people all this time that, you know, I see everybody in olives and greens, and I feel like we are going to war with, you know, the changes that we're seeing. And I just hope that people just continue, and you continue to tell your story, and that this does go other places, because people need to hear this, and people need to understand the importance of it. So
And I wanna thank you, because, and I wanna be transparent in something that I didn't say. I'm African American. Where is home?
Yeah.
Where are we from? Where is home?
Yeah.
This is why it affects me. Not just because of my family. Where is home? We were stolen from our home, and now we have to now go to back. Where is home here? Where is a place? And I feel that sometimes people miss that. They don't understand. Don't heartbreak. Where is home? And look, I stay in a little townhouse over there in Richardson. I stay even in, look, everybody has to be like me, but I stay there because that was my father's home, and he passed. He moved here to be with me, and 5 years after he moved here, he passed. So I stay there from a place of sentiment, because in the back of my mind, I also understand, yes, I can move into an apartment, I can move into, you know, I'm not trying to be melodramatic, but where is home? Where is home for a lot of us?
I know that I've spoken with Missy and I've spoken with Val and Choke. We've always said that the stories behind the artwork matters. We have to tell our stories. We cannot just put something up just because it's kind of like when I challenged you guys when we did Tears. I want to know the story behind the piece and not just a curated statement. And the stories matter. We have to continue to tell our stories. We have to. It's imperative that we tell the stories. The real deal, not the curated thing that we think other people wanna hear, we need to give them the real deal.
Real deal.
The real deal. Don't sugarcoat it, put it out there. We have to tell our stories, 'cause those stories matter, and they will make a difference.
And I want to thank you, because I don't think, these statements that were next to my paintings, they were in my sketchbook, what I was telling you about. I wasn't going to put them up at first. And I think maybe I would have, if I hadn't been in your show. You go deeper, Because sometimes we get caught up in, you should look at the painting and wonder about what it is. And I wanted to make it clear.
Absolutely.
And I please, all of you, I invite you to please read those statements if you haven't.
Does anyone else have any questions? Yes.
Are you planning to catalog this body of work as a way to keep the story going?
Should I?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, yes, ma'am.
That's why I asked about the documentary, because I still think it should come from you. Your point of view would be different than others.
You're right.
Yes. You were a child when the house was stolen from your great-grandmother. So, yes, your story needs to be told.
If I'm being honest, it wrecked my life. I'm a Capricorn, so I need my things that are familiar to me. I need to understand that and have it. And if I kind of spin if I don't have that. And when it happened to me, it was freshman year in high school. It was rough, so I had to go to another school. I was not pleased. I was in the neighborhood, I didn't know nobody. My mom loves to tell this story. I understand it was funny to her, but at the time it was not funny to me. I was walking up and down the street looking for somebody that looked like me, because I felt alone. And I was going to a new school, like y'all know, freshman year is a big deal when you're a little kid, So I felt overwhelmed.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, that breaks my heart. Wow. Wow. Does anyone else have any questions
Or statements.
or statements? Encouraging words? Reflection?
I was looking at this piece and I saw where you put the address down, on that particular statement, which I think is so important. My father is almost 80 now. He is 80, turned 80 this year. And we were going back to his childhood home. It was a black town in Oklahoma. And because of all the roads and land there now that is farmland and driven by other industrial scenes and everything like that, he couldn't even recognize where his house was. Like we rode out there and he's like, oh yeah, this is my school. We went and took a picture of this school, but where his actual house was, he couldn't even recognize it. So I think that cataloging it, especially with that piece of information, will keep that story going of Elm Thicket.
Thank you. Thanks for telling me that, Missy. Thank you, Amy. So the thing is, the advertisement or flyer that I made when I put on Instagram, I did it in my iPad because I just had the realization, I didn't plan it that way, but I think the way my mind works, because I'm, photographer and I like pictures. I have my grandmother's picture, all of her pictures, and my great-grandmother's pictures. But what's odd is we don't have any pictures of that house from that day and time. Now, I have a picture standing in front of that tree, because that was my tree.
Yeah.
But it's close up, so you can't see the home. So I had to paint it from memory.
Yeah.
That's my memory. So I was like, it was yellow. It was so pretty. It was pretty in the bushes. Like, it was just a idyllic, all those good feelings. So you're right, I do need to have it documented. I'm so thankful that the people that live there now have not come outside because I've sat in front of their home many times crying. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I feel like that dude on Friday. That was my grandmama's chain.
Oh, my goodness. Any other questions? I want to thank everyone for coming out and supporting Jamila in this beautiful, thought-provoking show that was very well executed. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for
guys, our
doing it.
friendship. So, this is adjourned. So thank you everyone for coming out and supporting.
I couldn't have asked for a better artist talk. Jennifer, thank you so much for leading the charge. And to all those in attendance, thank you so much for coming, and thanks for going to eat with me.
So please, if
This
you
is Hello
haven't
from
seen
Elm
it,
Thicket.
please feel free to walk around and really observe it. Some of these pieces there are, 50% of all the pieces that are on these walls right here, they're collage, so they get juicier as you get closer to them. Thank you.